Developing a book is huge. Those are the projects that really stop the studio. It'll start off with Phil, Wayne, or Mike basically coming up with a concept.
It's a creative process, so it's something that starts as an idea in your head, and you think, all right, okay, I can see, based on this little history that I've just read, I can say, right, okay, they had 3 Shermans over there, and there's a group of Rangers over here, and everything. So immediately, in my mind, I'm assembling the company diagram.
So when researching a new book, the key thing is to start by reading, well, a general sort of history of the thing and just getting your head around it. Now, mostly because we're doing this book, we've already thought about it and we know something about it. But usually we just try and find some good references to get a bit more detail and hone in on the general topic.
The more and more information you find, sometimes you'll find a quirky thing in the actual platoon organizations and things like that. Like, given a recent example, the rifle platoon in Devil's Charge, you dug a little bit deeper and it started getting a lot more bazookas became available to platoons, and they were being issued on a squad basis. So then I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. That makes that platoon a little bit different than the ones that are already out there. That's what you're always looking for in the design process, is something that's different and unique.
Initially, they're putting that in front of Pete and I to say, what do you think? And if the list is obviously, well, that looks cool. Oh, you got Yank Tigers, you got this, or you got this land matrix. Sounds like a winner.
So why is it cool? What lists do they think will be in it? Absolutely what models we'll be able to promote and sell as part of it, and how it fits in with our overall goal. And at the moment, one of our overall goals is how we conclude late war, for example.
I suppose we're lucky that our choice to go chronologically through a period gives us some sense of knowing what's coming. We're not literally randomly picking books. We're moving through late war at this slot, and how many books per period or per moment is our real choice.
With each of the 3 writers, they've each got their own areas of expertise and areas they enjoy the most. So it's pretty easy to guess which writer is going to want to work on which project.
If someone gets excited about a particular theater or something like that, they'll actually like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we'll put that person behind it and get going. I think that things like Budapest was a good example for Wayne. He was a huge fan of that, and Burning Empires for myself. Things that were really exciting for us. And so you get that passion behind the project. It helps propel it a lot further than otherwise.
They'll spend anywhere from sort of 2 to 6 weeks basically researching and putting the framework of the lists and the contents of the book together.
We then do a page plan, which works out what the contents of the actual book will be, and then we kind of sit down and we start doing a bit of reading and research, trying to work out the structure of the armies, what's going to be in them, and then once you've got to that point, you kind of start thinking about special rules, what if they need them at all, or whether something to cover if there's any weird vehicles that might need some actual rules written for Flames War itself.
Early on in the process, we'll pick a graphic designer to work on the project. By the end of the project, probably all 3 of the designers will have contributed, but there'll be a lead guy that'll do the majority of the work.
You've got the writers who do a lot of the basic graphic design stuff. They all know how to do the basic stuff. We just tidy it up, but they can do a lot of prep work for us. Likewise, graphic designers, read through rules and help and spot stuff where they can.
If it's the beginning of the process, a lot of it is involved with creating the visual feel and style of the book, like in terms of what colour an army is going to get, the backgrounds, how photos are going to end up being placed in the book, whether they're in a frame, loose faded and stuff like that.
Coming up with a look for certain sections of a book, you kind of look to things like the setting or the particular types of units that it is. I know that for the market garden stuff I used a lot of uniform camo and tried to represent those in the background.
There's normally certain things that are already set, and things like the way the company diagram is laid out. We try not to tinker with that too much each book. I mean, colours change, but that's what people are used to and recognise in terms of picking out their army. Same with the platoon diagrams, that black and white style with the silhouettes. If we change that too much, the books are going to someone who reads one book won't understand the next one.
It can get pretty confusing.
Yeah, so there's some things we have to keep consistent.
Like I said, they'll come in around about the 4 to 6 week mark and start doing work on it. By offsetting the two workflows, it means that there's actually some work for them to do by the time they join the project. Around about that time, I also start to get more involved. I need to start looking through the book and working out what new models there are, what organisational diagrams are in there that don't fit with products we currently sell, so I can start creating a sculpting plan.
So I've got to find out what the design team, the book writers and stuff, what they have in their mind, what they think, anything in particular that they want. And once I've got that out of them, dragged it out of them, I'll just trawl through my library for photos and reference works on it to make sure that the items are accurate, the equipment's accurate, the uniforms and all that sort of stuff is accurate. So we try to make sure that everything is provided for the army list in the books. That's pretty self-explanatory, really. To try and, where we possibly can, is give them options. So you don't want to have the same, for example, you don't want to have the same 5 rifleman figures over and over again. You may have 5 figures in the list required, but we try and give you 8 or 10 so that you get variation all over the place.
And so then you go through all the play testing and writing process, and of course the first priority is to get the list structures done, and then you start building things around that skeleton, like fluff text and histories and maps and stuff like that.
It's basically a bit of a push to try and have the lists completed as soon as possible. The lists are the part that need the most play testing, the most checking, and just the most time going into them. And by finishing the lists as soon as possible, we can ensure that so many other pieces kind of fall into place and follow on.
The internet, of course, is a huge bonus. It's a lot easier to find all sorts of material now than it was recently. We have a lot of books, and I have a whole shelf of folders full of stuff printed out from forums and internet sites and so forth. Whenever I bump across something interesting, I print it out and stick it in the appropriate folder. Even if it's something I think, I wonder if we'll ever get round to looking at this weird and wonderful thing. But if it's hard facts, it's worth sort of adding into the pile, because it can be really hard to find that one. I saw a site about 3 or 4 years ago that had all the information I'm looking for right now, but I can't find it anymore. So, lots of folders of printouts, which are useful. And then any book I find that's full of facts and figures, I usually buy, just to be able to go, okay, you want to know all about this particular thing? Here it is. This page here. Dun, 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 dun.